I don't even know if it's appropriate for me to start this off with a peace greeting. I mean, I done already recorded something about 50 minutes long, and then I realized, you know what? I can summarize that message because the Geek Underground helped me out. Shout out to him, the Geek Underground 4. I shared this video recently at the time I'm talking, but by the time you hear this, it'll probably be hours after I shared it. But here's why I shared it, and this is what was going on, what y'all needed to understand. It's important. First, I'm going to tie this all into that at the end, inshallah. Let me get one thing out the way before I start. Because Doris doesn't like it, punch the Cash App button at any time during this Jet Black Airways flight or at the end of the flight before you depart from the Jet Black aircraft. I do not request any one person sending large sums. That's nice. But my request is for the bulk of you actually to send in, for most of you to send in a little bit, because it's actually the notification sound on Cash App that inspires me. I could be at work and I'm teaching and I hear the sound of the coins dropping. And that's what inspires me. Now that we got that out the way, let's take a look at the past 2 years and the past few weeks and what they've shown. Now, if you took a look at the past few decades, then years and weeks, you're going to see something. I'll point it out to you in case you don't. Number one, over the past decades, I would say even 60 years, we've been stabbed in the back. See, my pops told me growing up, when I was growing up, my dad told me that when he was growing up, they really never said that it was okay for black boys to be smart. It was okay for black girls to be smart. It was not okay for black boys to be smart. They were seen as weak for being smart. That's what he told me. My dad grew up in the 50s and 60s in a poor black community in a segregated state. His dad was that town's black doctor. That town pretty much told my pops when he was done studying and he became a doctor that there really wasn't that much room for too many colored doctors, even though he would have been practicing with his dad, alongside his dad. To a certain extent, I'm glad he did not stay there. Let me tell you what else happened. My father has a friend from those same times, and mind you, this is before DNA test. I don't even think they had blood tests at this time. My dad's got a friend same age as him who around the time he was 18 was accused of paternity, knocking some girl up. He had to pay child support. Back then it was pretty much up to a judge, so she went up before she even had a baby. Yeah, that's his baby. Judge believed it, stuck the child support to him. When the baby was born, everybody that knew her and knew a particular football player, high school football player, who was pretty much a has-been by the time the baby was a toddler, knew that he must have been the dad because the boy looked just like him. And the boy started walking bow-legged and he became a star football player when he was in high school. Everybody pretty much knew that that's his baby. But my dad's friend, nice guy, he tried to be accepted with the street dude and tried to be a little too cool, but he got stuck with the child support bill. It wasn't even his baby. This was from a long time ago. I mean, the kid was probably born about 66 or 67. Now, y'all factor this in. That's how long it's been going now. Let's continue on. I mean, we had decades of Oprah talking about we ain't fit. And we've had decades, almost a century of certain ideas that have really gotten on steroids from, at least from my view, from the 1990s. But they've always been there. Now let's look at from that time. About the 90s, that was when I started to be treated worse by sisters. And I was treated worse than other brothers were. I absolutely was. And that was back then. Now, fast forward to today, a lot of you brothers were treated as badly as I was, and it wasn't, I mean, you weren't at the bottom, but you were still treated like such. You were treated as badly as I was, but it's many of you that are in your 30s today and younger that were treated as badly as I was. That means the treatment's gotten worse, because I know I was treated worse coming up. That I know. Treated worse than most other brothers. It's like sisters, they might have had these crushes, but they felt the need to show everybody that they didn't. They all seemed to think they had something to prove, if not to me, then to their girls, to their friends. And a lot of that was pretty much just vengeance against light-skinned brothers because of how they thought we were getting over during the 80s. In any case, that's what I had to face. Now, a lot of brothers have to face this on average. So we already know that what you've been facing is hostile gender war-like treatment. And one of the ways that you can tell that it's hostility, even if you haven't seen other treatment, or if you've seen a lot of dudes go through this and you think this is the norm, I can tell you a way that you know that it's hostility. For one, understand hostility is not a default. Hostility is something that must be provoked. So how is it that simply by having standards you get the hostility of sisters? It's simple. You have to understand the mentality of sisters. Standards are from men to whom they feel some sort of hostility. There's already a low boiling contempt if they're sitting up talking about standards you got to meet, what you got to have, what you got to do, what you got to be. I mean, if that pretty much means you ain't the super select, tall, athletic, genetically blessed dude that we just want to screw on the scrim for nothing. So because you're not that dude, here's some standards for you. That means they got hostility for the dudes they're holding to standards. It's not like with other women in traditional parts of the world where because you meet the standards, they don't have the hostility. It's more like you, because you don't meet the genetic standards, we got these other standards for you and we're being hostile to you because of the genetic standards you don't meet. The hostility being expressed in the form of the other standards you must meet to compensate for the genetic standards you don't. That's the mindset of the Western sister, and to a certain extent Western women in general, but most Western women are most hostile to the men of their own race. The Western raised and born Asian woman is most hostile to Asian men. They talk about how unattractive and unmasculine Asian men are to them. It ain't true, but since that's what other women say, they're willing to believe it. Since that's a perception, they're willing to say that same thing. The Wyatt woman is like that with her man. But the sister is like that with brothers, and vocally and proudly so. Black women are not really unique in that regard, except to the level of except the severity of it. Same pattern, but more severe, more vocal, louder, and prouder. So it's on steroids. But you're facing hostility when you have standards, because for them to have to even have standards for someone is hostility. It is for the same reasons for which they're hostile. You ain't that dude, so I got some hostility in the form of low boiling contempt or outright contempt, which is why I'm bringing these standards. That's what you didn't know. Now, as I'm telling you this, let me also continue with something else that y'all got to understand. Brethren, know this. There's more deception that's been going on. We are now sitting up and seeing how what Amber Rose says is emasculating. What Keke Palmer did was emasculating, if not to her baby daddy, then to her baby, because that's a son. That boy's going to reach an age in a few years, when somebody's going to pull his coattail and say, bro, your mom's on TV with her booty out. Oh, it would have happened to Janet too, but at the very least somebody could say, man, Justin did that, bro. He didn't know that it was going to expose the nipple. He did that. That was like a wardrobe accident. At least they might be able to say that. Janet Jackson's son. Let me tell you who ain't going to be able to say that. Oh, that wasn't a wardrobe malfunction. Keke Palmer's son When he gets older, it's going to be shown. No, bruh, her butt cheeks are out. I mean, even Kim Kardashian, who made the tape before she had a thought of Kanye, who made that tape before that point, was aggrieved when her children came up and showed some sort of thumbnail from the tape on one of their devices. What the hell did you think was going to happen, man? She had to deal with the consequence of it. I'm telling you in all honesty, the Kiki is out to emasculate somebody. And really, when you think about it, that's been what a lot of sisters been doing, period. Emasculate black men, even their own sons, to a certain degree. Willing to do dumb stuff that will harm their sons just to not submit to a man's leadership. No reason other than that. And just to make the statement that they ain't submitting to a man's leadership. They don't just not submit. Arab women will just, to a certain extent, stop submitting past the point to which they're ready to submit. You go past that threshold of submission level and severity, them, they just don't submit. They're nice. Oh, okay, yeah. And then they just don't do what you told them, or they do what you told them not to. Real polite about it when they do it. That's how they do. A lot of traditional women will do that when they go past, when you are asking them to do what they don't want to do or not do what they want. They will just kind of politely slip that in. But no, the Western sisters got to make it a point that she don't submit. She gonna do what you told her not to do just because you told her not to do it. Because a Western sister, on average, wants to be a hyena bitch. She wants to be one more than we want to call her one. What do you think that video is about, in which that woman saying, I put a perk in this drink and I don't give a damn, and then a friend takes over the mic and says something like, I'm a hoochie mama / hood rat. Nick all between my butt crack and stuff like that. With a baby on her arm while she says this at a gas station. The reason that they're doing this is because what they're pretty much saying is, we are in rebellion against you. We're going to do to you whatever you don't want us to do, and we won't do for you whatever you want us to do. And then what is it that, I mean, how do you really go against a man's nature? How do you really go against a man's nature? You take his resources to raise another man's kids. You take men who are childless and then say, okay, you can only have me now because I got another man's kids for you to raise. Okay, come on up, stepdad. Now, Red Film Diaries already told us women cannot respect childless men who become stepdads first. She told us that they cannot respect men like that. So why are sisters demanding that? Sisters are always demanding, Western sisters, are always demanding that you do that for which they cannot respect you anyway, because they already don't respect you. That's why they don't mind lying to you, even when she's your mama and you her son. Usually more like when she's the aunt and you the nephew, or she's the older sister and you the younger brother. But even when she the mom and you the son, she don't mind lying to you about what women want, because she already has some disrespect for you. Despite her love, there's still a contempt because you are black male. You start off with that. That's your beginning. Now, what do I tell you this? I've said to you before that you are not supposed to underestimate the hatred that the Western sister has for you. Because she starts off with a low boiling contempt. Ain't no novelty with her. Unless you just the tallest she's ever had, or something else. You don't start off with that novelty. When it's Western women of other races, at least you start off with a novelty. And maybe that can lessen the chances of them coming to a low boiling contempt for you. But I doubt it. But with sisters, you start off with that low boiling contempt. Shout out to BJ Sidmore for talking about that. So when I have stated to you that you must not ever underestimate their hatred and their motivation against you and what they're willing to do, there's a reason for it. I don't say that because it's hyperbolic and it sounds great on the soundbite, and I don't say it for that reason. That's actually one of the things that causes people to hit the Cash App less. I'm aware of that. So why do I tell you that? I tell you that because of what it is that the Geek Underground just showed us in the video that I shared with you in the community tab. Some woman followed Charles Tyler to Rio long time ago. In the 2010s, I believe, or early 2000s, she followed him to Rio to argue with him on the damn beach. And these were Yankee brothers getting with brasileiras pradas and pretas. Pradas with a D. I'm sorry, pardas with a D and pretas. That means black admixed and black. That's where brothers were going for the most part. Even Austin Holloman went to Bahia, Salvador de Bahia, because it's the blackest, most African city in Brazil. That's why he went. He visited Rio. He visited other places. He stayed in Bahia, the capital city, Salvador de Bahia. That's where the Muslim Africans held in Brazil under slavery in 1835 staged their revolt. It wasn't even just a slave revolt, it was a black jihad. Shout out to the features for covering stuff like that. That's what the cuss word it was. Austin went there. Austin was more pro-black than most of the sisters that had a mother cuss word thing to say about him. Stephanie the Bear ain't pro-black. She pro-woman. That's why she's living in the States with her zaddy. And had something to say about him. He had to leave. It sped up the process by which he went back to Africa. The origin of what he likes in the first place. That man still likes sisters. He just wants them to be fit, feminine, friendly. He wants them to get rid of that Western attitude. That's what he's looking for. You take me, for instance. I've come to realize something about myself. A lot of things about myself. Black Manosphere has really shown me many things about myself. That's another talk for another day. But what I wanted to tell you all is that if you do look at what my story has been, I had to leave the States to find good wives. Didn't expect to, but I had to. That's what it took. And see, I was thinking it's just, it's just all environmental. Nope, turns out it's environmental and individual. I was thinking it was that. And I found my current wife, hell. I was already past 40 when we started the discussion of marriage. And she's sitting up here now in East Africa. She's not in Somalia, but she's in a part of East Africa, scoping it out for retirement for us. And one of the things she's trying to see is how receptive they would be to guys like me. There's also some other stuff going on too. Something else that's going on is that sisters, in spite of all of this lying and deception in which they've been engaging, and a lot of Western women in general have done this, sisters do the most shaming of men for being deceived by them. If you believe what sisters say about what they want, what they like, then sisters they punish you the most for believing this stuff and shame you for it later. Stop and think about this. Women hate chastity in a man because to them, a man can't be chaste. He just ain't getting none. They hate that. Traditional women don't necessarily hate that in a man. They just may not prize it that much and say he's got to be a virgin. They don't do that. He's got to be a virgin. But Western women no, he's got to have more of a body count than me. But I can easily go to the bar and rack up my body count, which I'm doing every week, by the way. He can't, but he has to have a body count to supersede mine. That's part of the reason why they can't find nobody. White or not. Black or not, Asian or not, Western, they can't find nobody because of that. But sisters punish you for not knowing this stuff, and they'll be the main ones lying. But when you do know it, they want to silence you and tell everybody you're insane. And so fortunately, the black manosphere and social media on which it stands has exposed them. But I don't want you to underestimate the hatred, because they are working to spread their ideas abroad. That sister sitting in that club ain't just looking at them brothers. She's looking at, how can I turn these women against them? She don't give a guck about them Thai women. She's jealous of them and hates them, but she's still looking at, how can I turn them against these no good, dusty black men who could afford plane tickets over here more easily than she could. I told you all they were going to do what it takes. They were going to work hard to uck it up. We got a solution. It's passports, travel, skill sets that you can take abroad, that sort of thing. We got a solution. They notice they're going to do what they can to uck it up. They're already working against their own interests just to work against yours. The only reason that they will sit up here and deny them draws from responsible men is because they want to work against your interest, even though they like them draws too. Crimson Q already said it. They'll turn around and deny you simply because you like it, even though they do as well. They're willing, if they had to choose between enjoying anything with you, including bumping and grinding, or suffering with you, they'd rather suffer with you just to make sure you're the one suffering, because they hate you more than they love themselves. And that's why they're following you to Brazil. That's why they're following you to now Thailand, the Philippines. And mark my words, them black American Muslims are going to start following brothers to Morocco and Malaysia and Indonesia and Senegal and Gambia, and they're going to try to spread their little Western feminism. Girl, don't you know that man don't deserve to be as happy with you as he is? Why? Why does he not deserve that? Now think of something. They already got some parts of the continent. So I'm going to say this. Brothers, first, I am doing for the work it takes on my end to try to frustrate that. Because I now realize that some of them black American Muslims that are over here teaching English are going to try to teach some feminism with that. So I'm going to tell brothers here, hey man, look, this is what you got to do to frustrate that feminism. This is what you do. Number one, you make sure that you throw aside Bedouin culture and family honor and all that, any Arab bullshit that goes against Islam. You got to throw it over your shoulder. That's the first thing. Be real good to your moms when you got to take care of her, when it's your turn. But you call the shots because you're the one taking care of her. She don't tell you what to do once you start taking care of her. No, you tell her what to do. I get it, she moms, but if you have to take care of her, you call the shots. Your house, your rules. Your money, your rules. Got it? Number two, be real good to your sisters, to your daughters. Be real good to them, to your wives, but you make them understand if they have a social media account that they didn't tell you about and you find out, it is over. Take that phone back. Give them a dumb phone. They can call their friends to come see them. No more social media. Just because, not because they had a social media account, but because they lied and told you that they had these four and didn't tell you about the fifth. That's why. Oh, they had Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. Whatever else. If they tell you about the accounts and you can see them and follow them, good. If they can drive now here in this country, fine. If they tell you where they're going and they make sure that they with one of your relatives or what a trusted friend to her so they're not by themselves and vulnerable, cool. You catch them lying, you catch them doing this stuff, giving them goddamn car keys. I don't care if you did pay for that car. We could take it back to the dealership. If it's going to be all that, you ain't going to sit up here and just run rampant and wild. And if they want to say, well, you got to be so controlling, but you get to stay out all night, you got to tell them, look, for one, most of the time, dudes just don't be staying out all night like that. Now, dudes will be up late, but out all night, no. They got to work. or they got to find a job. But the other thing too is, look, and I'm telling these dudes, if they do say that, you can say, listen, I could be out all night, every night, by myself, and not one woman's gonna walk up and flirt with me. I'm more likely to get hit on and flirted with by a dude than I am by a woman. And we live in a conservative Muslim country. You, on the other hand, out by yourself, vulnerable, are going to get the attraction of good and bad men alike, and bad dudes will follow you. They'll say something to you and you know it. You may have already had it happen and you ain't want to tell me nothing about it. Now do what the hell I told you. I'll take care of you. You want to get married? I'll help you find a good husband. You find a good man and introduce me to him on the up and up and no sneaking around. Then I will vet him and help with the marriage. I do want somebody good for you. I'm not here to oppress you, but to protect you, I need to know stuff. And you got to walk a straight path. I'm already telling these dudes here that. So I'm doing my part. So what do you need, brothers need to do? This is what I'm going to say. If you're already abroad, have conversations with the local men about this stuff. And let them know, because there are women that are working, and these women are not going to sit up and walk up to the local men and say, you controlling mother. No, they ain't going to do that. They know what's going to wait on them for that. That's an ass whooping. Maybe some jail time, depending on what the country is. No, that's not what's going to happen. They know not to do that. They're going to go into chat rooms and have private conversations with the most educated, best English speaking women and put the ideas in their heads. Now, it ain't going to work overnight, but they will keep trying, and there may be a time when they succeed. So, what I'm going to say is, if you are one of them brothers and you already abroad, then you start talking to some of the men there and letting them know what the deal is. Letting them know what to look for. How to spot it, what to tell them. And then also, because you already know how to be good to women. That's good. Great. Excellent. You know how to be good to them. Fine. But you got to tell these brothers over there, our buddies, potential in-laws, what to look for. Next. If you're still in the West and you can't get out right now, then you can utilize your time in the West to do exactly what Dr. Ungawa Dashiki Tunde Johnson said we should do, but in the way we should actually do it, not the way that he said, not the way that their moms and aunties and, not the way that the boys, moms and aunties and grandmoms want us to do it, not the way the single moms want and they sisters and they mamas want. No, not that way, not on their terms, not the way they would approve, but the way I said before. You ain't taking responsibility for these young boys. You ain't doing that. You ain't showing up at mom's house knocking on the door. Sister, I'm with Positive Big Black Brothers and Sisters of America. Like on the Boondocks. I'm Brother Hakeem from Positive Big Black Brothers and Sisters of America. No, shut that fit. No, you just see these young brothers. Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing? All right, young man. And when you get a chance, and they could be as young as the end of elementary. You get a chance, you let them let them boys know about the black manosphere. And you say to them, look, you don't have to keep this a secret forever. I'm not asking you to. Just keep it a secret until you know what's actually there and what's not. Until you learn what it is that moms and auntie and grandma and big sister ain't telling you about women. Because they ain't gonna tell you what you need to know. That's where you find out. One of the best ways to couch it is you let these brothers know that you know where to find things out about women they don't even know about themselves and can't. That's how you couch it. Stuff they don't know about themselves, stuff they can't tell you because they're not aware of it. It's there, but they don't know it. Now that's really what's going to get these young boys' attention. That's what you do. And you let them know. Because at some point, these boys are going to start understanding all they really need to know is that there are things about women that mama can't say or won't. Grandma can't say or won't. whether they lying or don't know how to explain it. Whichever one is, once they know that there is a discrepancy between whatever they're going to hear from women about women and what's actually true about women, once they know there's a discrepancy, they will start to figure out a lot of it by themselves. They'll get to an age where they want to know, well, what the hell is actually true? And then they already know where to look. They may even come back to you. Hey, what's good, Unc? Hey, Unc, you remember a few years ago you told me this? Where'd I find that out at? 13 now. I know something's off. That's when you tell them, okay, now you're old enough to know what you can tell mom and what you can't, and when you can tell her. So here you go. You may be already gone by that point out the west, but they reach out to you, email or something. Hey, Unc, what's up? What's good? Man, how's everything out there in traditional land where you are? Things good, nephew. It's good. Wish you were here. Whole lot for you to learn. Yeah, Unc, that's good. That's peace. You told me a long time ago there's a difference between what women gonna tell you about women and what's actually true about women. What do I need to know, Unc? Okay, all right. Here's a channel. There's a channel. There's a link. There's a channel. Glad you asked. You let them know that. Man, look, when they can get them passports, they will come out to you as best they can. And they need to know this. When they first time they need to hear about this is when they about to end elementary school or when they towards the tail end of it. Not even when they start middle school. Man, here's why they need to know that. Because see, once it gets to that point, once they in middle school and they start to see that they were told then they're going to know that they weren't just misled, they were lied to. Somebody lying and knows they lying, which is why I'm saying they lying, because it ain't a mistake. They're going to realize this. They're going to turn to you like, man, he knows. What this does is it will, see what I'm doing on my end, if it works, because feminism is spreading anyway, but if it works, it's going to frustrate it. It's going to be met with opposition and resistance. On the same token, on the flip side, you telling them back stateside, Canada, Jamaica, Barbados, the Bahamas, Belize, Trinidad, you telling them young brothers over there what it is, what's good, that something's being kept from them. And that's going to dry up the well of simps. See, there's already a change, but what we want is to see something what we want is no more stories like Russell Wilson and Sierra, because even though those two are celebrities and their lives aren't the same as ours, it's still a pattern amongst the lives of regular people that is there. We want to see that pattern not just dwindle, not just see sisters having a little bit of a harder time going the wrong route and still profiting and getting away with it. No, we want to see that gone. Just like it's real rare that a man's going to just, grow up in the West, be himself, find a good and nice looking traditional wife and they live happy. Just like that's rare, damn near a lottery ticket. We won't make that a damn near a lottery ticket for them hoes over there. Those Western 304s. We want that to be something they just pretty much ain't gonna find. We pretty much, the clueless guys on whom they rely for the retirement and the old age, we want to make sure don't exist no more. Ain't no dudes clueless. You walk into that, you know what it is. Because really, if a dude has not been clueless since he was young and then he gets older and he does choose to go that route, he's at least going to be able to say, well, this is why I'm going that route and this is what I'm going to get out of it. Because I ain't going to be patient. I ain't going to just give and not take. So, okay, I'm giving. This is what's going to come out of it. See, already certain laws are being affected. I mean, DeSantis pretty much ended permanent alimony. And I'm not saying, hey, man, DeSantis is great. No, I'm not saying nothing like that. I'm just saying that that's one of the things that's changing. What happens when other states come along and say, yeah, shuck that fit. Matter of fact, you know what? Don't even marry women that make less than you in the West. Don't do it. Let these dudes know, no. She need to make more than you. Why? Because you can trust yourself to not ask for alimony in the event of a divorce. You can't trust her to not ask you for it. She's going to go for it, absolutely. You might feel like you ain't a man trying to hit up for alimony in the event of a divorce. And then notice something else too. Notice this. In the event That a white man marries a wealthier black woman, then they divorce. He's going to go for alimony. Why? Because he felt he was doing her a favor in the first mother cuss word place. White men who like black women still feel like they're doing them a favor by being with them because that is a social stigma. It's a social weight. They may be culturally free enough to tell other men to mind the business, but they still know what is not being spoken to their faces. It's a sacrifice to them, and they're going to take their pound of flesh at the end. If Alexis Ohanian leaves Serena Williams, he's not going to just say, I don't want alimony. He's going to say, well, you know what, something in the divorce settlement. He ain't going to pay. He's going to collect something. If he can. Depends on what the law allows. He's going to go for it, though. And he could file. You got to understand that we got to understand really that right now, because sisters don't have many options than other men, we can use that to our advantage, meaning that we can use this to dry up their options because we don't want the Western sisters reproducing with anybody. Not because they're black, but because they're Western. We don't want them reproducing and taking our nephews, let alone sons, God forbid, but our nephews, maybe even grandsons if we ain't careful, and raising them for the next cycle. Look, Junior, you need to be a nice man, and the women gonna line up for you if you do the right things in life. Only to have him grow up doing all the right things, and he raising kids that ain't his, whether he knows it or not. Because raising his own first, having his own kids by an attractive woman first wasn't an option because he was responsible, and he wasn't an N19 dragging his knuckles and swaggering. That's what's out there. If these right now, even though you got sisters out here bringing in babies from non-black men back into the black population centers, even though that does exist, understand that there's a reason why that number is not higher than it is. There's a reason for that. Non-black men that don't turn down the draws, because there are those who will not lay down with black women, but the ones who will lay down with them are still extra careful to not leave their seed. They're careful. Because they ain't necessarily trying to have no black descendants. Got to keep that in mind. Most of them will do what they can to not. One dude, Pakistani, living in the U.S., getting with a sister because that's an easy booty. He could live with her, hit that. But when he told her she was carrying, if the story is correct, he snuck an abortion pill up her birth canal during foreplay because she wasn't going to take the pill. She was going to carry it to term because, he light-skinned with that squate hair. She don't want no light-skinned black man with straight hair, probably. But he's non-black with straight hair. She's thinking, okay, this baby's going to be like my gateway into becoming something other than black. That's how a lot of them think. This man was like, oh, hell no, I'm not finna do this. I know I can't bring home no black baby to my parents. They'll never treat that baby equally. Shuck this fit. Let me sneak this pill up in her. That's the end of it. That's how they think. Get some? Yeah, sure. I know. Look, I talked about a cat from Bangladesh that was at Morehouse digging them out. And there was another dude, a brother, that hung out with him. Yeah, man, he was getting something this weekend at that party. He was on the side of the bill. Bruh, he was digging them out. I'm like, wait a minute. Really? Because he kind of goofy with the long hair. And by sister standards, he was funny for us. You could talk to him, cool with us, but by sister standards, he was goofy. Long, straight hair, walk around, playing a guitar. He couldn't really speak Ebonics. So, I thought sisters would have seen him as a goofball. Apparently, he was, this dude was a witness. No, he was getting him. Another dude was a witness that hung out with him, but here's the thing. That man never, at no point did this man ever come back and say, oh, I had this baby by this chick at CAU or by the Spelmanite. He never. No, when I saw him later, he had been married to a white woman. And Bangladeshis ain't even racist like that. And what'd that tell you? So I'm saying this so that you can understand that if we actually limit the pool of men that they have available to them in the West at all, period, we will then limit severely limit and minimize the number of kids they can conceive, period, through whom they can continue this dysfunctional N19 cycle and matriarchy. We don't just want to export ourselves outside of the West to where we're treated best. Shouts out to A. LaRue for that. Now, that ain't all we're trying to do. Let's go on ahead and try to limit their options of reproducing at all in the West, so that they can't perpetuate the cycle no more. I hope that what I said helps. Because where we're going, I mean, things are good now, but where we're going, they are going. And I don't want us underestimating what these sisters are going to do. Now, what they can do is going to depend on where we're talking about, because the world is big. But I don't want you to underestimate their efforts, because if they can get a plane, they may go into debt to get a plane ticket just to go into these clubs and mean mug. But best believe they ain't going just to mean mug. That ain't what they doing. They ain't going just to mean mug. I don't know if that's what this woman was really doing or not. What I do know is that there are sisters like that. Whether this woman's one of them or not, they ain't going just to look in the club and that's just to look. No, they ain't doing that. Somebody's got to pay for them tickets. And it may be that they're willing to go into debt to get them tickets to go, just to try to put some, put somebody in some local women's ears, put something in some local women's ears just to ruin it for the future. Meanwhile, we think we are thinking that the struggle stops when we land and clear customs and baggage claim in somebody else's country. No. It might get easier for us. Now we're ahead of the curve. But what I want us to do is be more proactive about keeping these locations ahead of that. Because these sisters, these hyena sisters coming out the West are doing what they can to spread it. That's how the hell it got into Brazil. Someone got to Stephanie Ribeiro's years ago, and then she turned around and screwed things up for Mr. Holloman. Because she felt that you, the normal man coming out the West, didn't deserve no submission from nobody that might be attractive in her country. She knew Austin wasn't saying that the women here just are SLUTZs. She knew that's not what he meant. She knew that what he meant was they're not difficult to deal with. That was insulting enough to her, because when you're a feminist and you hate men and you're a misandrist, especially if you hate black men, hearing that a group of women are not difficult to black men is the same as calling them an SLUT, even if that's not what the cuss word was meant. That's enough. I was one of those dudes. Before it was most black men, I was one of those dudes. 89, 90, 91. Coming of age. Now it's my turn to pay for what some light-skinned brothers did years before me. That's what it was. I was that dude. Second girlfriend I had broke up because she was being teased about some hickeys on her neck. Yeah, I left it. But they were calling her an SLUT just because of that. Now, they didn't do this normally. They called her an SLUT because it was my yellow behind that left these hickeys on her neck. It was, some old middle school stuff. The point is that wasn't normal. That's what I'm getting at. So that's how I know what this treatment means. This time, it's Mr. Holloman. 6'2", select by what sisters are looking for. But, because he was pretty much saying to brothers that these women here ain't tripping, they ain't difficult to deal with, she got upset. He didn't mean they were SLUTs, but to her, that's what she heard, because it means that brothers, normal brothers who ain't celebrities and 7 feet tall with 300 million and a 12-inch Johnson, super Negro, because you don't have to be that for a nice looking brasilera to treat you well. That was enough. That's all he had to mean. And she was like, no, you called us SLUTs and you out there committing all kind of crimes and everything else. That man had to leave, because even though he was investigated and not found to have done anything wrong, it could have turned ugly had he stayed. It's a war. I told you it's a war. So you got to understand that while there are places to which we can go so far right now, and that's good, we still got to do the work to keep these places like that, because Boomsheika, Bonquesha, and Sista Ratchet Sapphire are doing the mother cuss word work it takes to get themselves over there so they can drop some poison in the ears of local women. That's what the work they doing. They doing that here. Truth be told, they don't really have to travel over here to do it. They're doing it, though. It's spreading here. That's why I know it's going to spread. What you think is going to happen in Thailand, you get enough of them sisters over there. Yeah, they make fools out themselves. Yeah, that's true. But don't underestimate their potential to change things over time if they play the long game, and we don't play it at all. What they're trying to do is they're trying to slowly turn the temperature up to boil the frog. That's what they're trying to do. No. What we need to do is we need to be like, look, y'all keep on watching. You need to keep your eye on the temperature of the water. And don't let them come over here and make any changes, because they will if they can. That's what we need to be telling the local men and women. See, other women in other countries can kind of look at Western sisters and be like, yeah, but see, you a nasty, unhappy B-word. And that's true. It could be that way. That can happen. But you don't want a situation in which these sisters can sit up there and eventually start to convince a few key influential ones that it's different. You don't want that. You want to nip that in the bud. I think I've talked about this enough. Thank you for listening. As always, thanks for your patience too. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. I hope this helped you in real life, and I mean it from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. Assalamu alaikum, black, heterosexual, non-select male power, just because Doris and Stephanie Ribeiros don't like it. And that chick in the club in Thailand, if that's what she was doing. And black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying again with me on Jet Black Airways, where Jet Black is also a verb. Keep Jet Black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. You know what to punch on your way out of the Jet Black aircraft unless you have already done so. Gender, justice, forever.